Welcome to the Coaches Spotlight Podcast, the show where you'll be listening to coaches from around the globe that share their pitfalls and struggles all the way up to what made them successful in their field. Ready to catapult your coaching business past the competition? Then grab your favorite beverage and get ready to listen to meaningful conversations and learn from industry experts. Here's your host, Oliver Momeni.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Coaches Spotlight. Our next guest works at the intersection of capitalism, consciousness, social and environmental impact. As a business consultant and coach, she focuses on helping her clients how to make smart and strategic decisions while tending to individual and group dynamics. She provides tools as well as practical, actionable guidance to achieve impact and financial goals while nurturing leadership and team development. Please welcome Ursula Jorch. Glad to have you on the show, Ursula.
It's my pleasure, Oliver. I'm really delighted to be here.
Now, we always start off the show with getting an insight from our guests with what they're specialized in and what is the outcome they guide people towards. In other words, what is your signature coaching program?
Mm-hmm. Well, the work that I do centers around the idea of impact. And I define impact as where you and your unique business meet the world and contribute to making it better for all of us. And fortunately for us, when you focus your business around impact, whether it's a coaching business or any other business, you actually perform better financially. There's research to support that, where companies that focus on impact have 12 to 14 times more income than companies that don't. And what I do is help clients really get clear on the compelling impact that they want to have. We go through a whole process that dives really deep and gets clarity on that. And this really goes beyond purpose or mission or even your why to really get to the heart of what it is that you want to be and how you want to contribute in the world. So after we do that, then we dive into your business and look at, all right, so what's the plan now with impact infused moving forward? And we do a really clear plan, and then I coach people through the implementation of that. That's called the impact breakthrough process, and it goes through the impact purpose first part, and then the impact map, and then we go into implementation.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you dissect their why, their mission, and what their overall outcome is they want to have with their business. Is that right?
Yes, and it's really about the person who's leading the business. It's really delving into how you're leading, what's important to you, why did you start this business? It goes into many different aspects beyond those few things and really looks deep at what it is that you want to actually do with this business. If you can come out of your business from that place, you not only have a more fulfilling experience as an entrepreneur, but it clarifies your decision making. It takes you through challenges more easily, and it helps you stay on track in long and short-term planning, which is super important, especially right now. Short-term planning, when you have an overarching guide like that, a guiding light, it's really going to help you make good choices even for short-term planning when you have to pivot as quickly as we're having to now. So it really takes you through that whole process. And the other aspect of impact that's so important for a business is it really engages your audience. It increasingly, people are looking for businesses that are contributing something meaningful. They want to be part of that. And even now, people are making buying choices around that. So those are the many reasons that focus on impact is so valuable and really contributes to business success in a significant way and increases success.
Now, before we move on, for those of you that are a coach or a consultant, or you want to become one and have not created your signature program yet, then you're leaving a ton of money on the table. But no worries, I got you covered. My team and I have put together a guide that teaches exactly how to design your signature program. The exercises throughout the guide will systematically help you in creating a successful program all the way up to how much to charge for it. So if you want to grab a free copy of this guide, then head on over to coachesspotlight.com/guide. That's coachesspotlight.com/guide. Ursula, share with us a success quote or a mantra and an example of how you've applied its meaning in your life.
Well, this one's kind of a personal one. The thing that I say to myself a lot, which is everything is always working out for me. And that may sound like a weird sort of thing to think, but by having that perspective, I really am able to think about everything that happens, unexpected things, at times unwelcome things, or it feels unwelcome in the moment. Everything's a gift. Everything is an opportunity to learn. Everything is a chance to really consider, okay, this didn't go exactly the way I thought it would, whether that's good or bad. And what can I learn from this? What can I do to adjust? And it allows me to be really nimble in being able to respond to situations and to help my clients do that as well. So everything is always working out for me has really carried me a long, long way. And it continues to, even now, after I've been in business been an entrepreneur for 24 years now in 4 different businesses. So that's been a way of thinking about it.
Well, that's a very optimistic way of looking at life. I always say having a positive mindset will attract more positive circumstances. However, if you're negative, you'll attract more negativity and pain. So having the mindset of everything is always working out for me is the way to go. Great quote you got yourself there, Ursula.
Yeah, I mean, that's a trademark trait of mine. I can always find something positive in every situation. There's always an opportunity somewhere. And that serves me really well when I'm working with clients, because I can go in and really see opportunities and we're all like this. We're a bit blinkered as far as our own businesses go, but I can go in and really identify opportunities and really help my clients move into a better situation.
Love it. Tell us, what was the main reason why you started your coaching business?
Well, I was saying to you before the podcast that everybody's got such an interesting path. It's never you're 5 years old and you want to grow up and be a coach. that almost never happens. I've actually never heard it happen. Nope. But for me, it was kind of an evolution over time where I have a science background. I worked in academia and medical research, and then I did that in a corporate setting. And when I went out on my own, I did an extension of what I was always doing in my previous work. And in the course of that, clients would come to me and say, you're doing so well, and I really want to do that too. I want to move past this corporate job that I have. Can you help me do that? So I was doing coaching with various clients who would basically just on request ask me, and we'd work together and build their businesses. And then about 10 years ago, I had been feeling kind of restless and unfulfilled. Even though my business was going great, I ended up thinking about, well, maybe I just need a bit of a break. I mean, I did a few things to try to kind of settle more into that. But what I eventually did was really focus on doing some creative things. So I started exhibiting my photography, and then I ended up I was doing African drumming performances and all kinds of different things, which kind of quelled the dissatisfaction for a while, but clearly it wasn't really addressing the issue. And so I thought, I'm going to take a little time off and just kind of step back and reflect. And I started off thinking, well, maybe I'll take 3 weeks off, which seemed really crazy long at the time because I'd never taken more than a week most of the time. And I think 1 2-week period in 15 years. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs feel that way, that they're kind of concerned that the business won't thrive if you're gone too long. But I ended up starting with that 3-week period, and then it became 6 months, or rather 6 weeks, and then 3 months. And then eventually over time, this morphed into the idea that I would sell what I owned. I owned a house, and most of my belongings, put the little bit that was left into storage, and then travel as long as that made sense to me. And it wasn't because of any terrible thing that happened. It was really an evolution over time. And in the course of that year that I ended up traveling, I really found that where my heart was really in the realm of coaching and working with other business owners. For me as an entrepreneur, it was enormously liberating and satisfying to create something of my own, to really be part of having a service that I could offer to people that I knew was valuable. I had people working for me at different times, and so I was able to provide jobs, and all of those things were really satisfying for me, and I wanted to help other people do that. So the other aspect of it was that the work I'd done before was really highly intellectual, and I really discovered in that year of travel, I kind of had, I jokingly refer to it as, if you've ever heard of Jill Bolte Taylor, she wrote a book called A Stroke of Insight. And she actually had a stroke where her intellectual side of her brain was massively affected, and she was left with basically all heart. And it was such an amazing, transformative experience for her, although of course traumatic. But I joke that my experience was like that, but thankfully without the stroke. So I had this whole year of really exploring that side of myself that I hadn't really given as much attention to. And I ended up I found coaching has been an amazing blend of, in a dynamic way, a blend of what I say is smart and heart. So yes, absolutely, bring in the intelligence and the analytical skills and all of those things that are so helpful in running a business, but also blend that with real heart in connection with clients and emotion, and really helping you bring out what's in your business that's really tapping into something much deeper than just the intellect. So that's how I came to coaching. It's been a circuitous path, and I'm really, it feels like a real calling to me. It's really called very strongly to me. So I'm really delighted to be able to serve people in this way and help them really look at the impact they want to have and help them do that.
You know, it's funny when I'm listening to all the coaches that I'm interviewing now, when it comes to this question, I actually forget that I'm actually the one that is interviewing, because it seems like I'm listening to a podcast somewhere, listening to someone's show, or basically someone just, being on a podcast, because this is the question that is so unique for everybody that answers it. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a total different story, obviously, but to listen to how everybody started becoming a coach is so eye-opening, in a sense of understanding that we don't just wake up in the morning and say we're going to become a coach, right? Like we talked about before, also before the show. And if I think about when I left Germany 20 years ago, down here to live at the Mediterranean Sea, I wouldn't have imagined being a coach. You don't know it before you come into the situation where, it brings it out in you. And that's pretty much that, everybody somehow experiences when they step into the realm of becoming a coach. Ursula, share with us a story of a time in your journey where you encountered failure. Take us back to that time in your life and tell us that story, and share with us the lessons you have learned.
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, I've had 4 businesses, and in my 3rd business, I launched my first program. So I really was very excited about it. I felt ready to serve and have impact, to help people have impact themselves, which is my impact purpose, as I call it. And I really plunged into it with a lot of anticipation, and I had taken courses on online marketing, and I had studied with some people to really know what I was doing in that process. And so I was really thrilled to be doing that. And I launched my first program. I had 0 signups, none at all. And it was pretty devastating. I was a little scared because I wasn't sure where I would go next. I was finding that I thought I had done the right thing. I mean, I'd followed all the 10 steps to, those kinds of programs of here's how you do it sort of thing. And yet it obviously wasn't successful. So what I really learned in that process is a couple of major things, and that has continued to serve me in my business, and it's helping me help clients who have similar experiences. One is I had a lot of inner dialogue that was telling me, you don't really know what you're doing. You're not confident enough. You're not ready. All of that sort of inner conversation that led to me being less confident going into it. And of course, you're trying something new. There's always going to be that element. But by having this inner dialogue, kind of this tape sort of running in my mind, it really led me to not communicate very well with confidence and clarity that I can help people. I knew I could, but I wasn't communicating it very well. And what I did in response to that was to work with a coach who was really very focused on mindset and helping business leaders to really get a handle on those inner messages and how that's affecting you. And it really raised my confidence to a level that when I had the next launch, it was actually successful. It was very successful. So that was an important aspect. And the other thing that I noticed, and I see my clients doing this as well, is that in terms of marketing, I kind of slipped the launch into the water. I think I was subconsciously hoping that nobody would notice, because in a way it's scary to put yourself out there. It brings up whatever issues that you have around visibility, and really it's, in a way, it feels safer to just kind of gently let it out into the world. But what I learned to do out of that is to really embrace and stand in the certainty that I know I can help people, the people that are drawn to my message. So now I market to the absolute maximum. I do everything that I can think of to put the word out about it, and I execute on that according to the schedule that I lay out for myself, allowing myself to adjust as I'm getting responses to things. And miraculously, I kind of went from being pretty scared of marketing to actually growing to like it. And that was a huge transformation. And I know a lot of people have this fear around marketing, and to be able to make that transition is an important one, because you have to be able to be friends with this marketing process to really do your business justice, to get your work out there. And for me to have the impact that I want to have, I needed to make those shifts. And when the clients that I work with, those are often things that people come up against, and it's a transition that they have to deal with as well. So that's what we work on. That's what we focus on.
It actually doesn't surprise me that you had this inner conflict with yourself, because I see it all the time with my clients, which are all coaches. And I always say, before we start the program, we first need to align your mindset so we're on the same page in order for you to earn what you want to earn. And it all starts with understanding that we are not salespeople, we are coaches, which means we never need to sell anything. If a coach knows how to market themselves and has a consistent flow of prospects knocking at their door, then all that's left to do is get on a strategy call, right? But unfortunately, this is where the majority of coaches give up because they all don't know how to start talking about their program, and even less, how to ask the prospect to enroll into their coaching. That said, the goal of a well-structured strategy call is for the prospect to see that you have the solution to their problem, with the effect, no selling needed. The art is to get the prospect to ask about your program and even ask how much it is to join.
Yeah. Well, that's where the whole focus on impact is so helpful as well, because it really gives you a very grounded, deep reason for what you're doing. And you can always return to that. You can always return to the impact purpose that you have in mind. And it can really help you through those challenges around marketing. And it can, as you said, when you have clarity about your message and where you are positioning yourself in the market, and that arises out of the impact you want to have, then you can go into it with a lot more confidence, and sales become less and less important. And you can really work with that as a way to not feel like you have to be this kind of high-powered, high-pressure salesperson, which I think is kind of a myth that people have around their work and their business.
So true. Ursula, is there anything you would have done differently before you began your career as a coach? And if so, what was it exactly?
Well, I think what I would have done would be to have many more conversations talking to my audience directly and finding out exactly what they need. I mean, that launch was an example of that in the sense that my messaging could have been clearer, and if I'd had more confidence, that would have helped as well around that. But learning what it is that your audience actually needs is absolutely essential. Your whole marketing is built around that, and it also helps you create offerings that are really going to serve the people that you are trying to serve. And if you're not clear on what that is, on who your audience is, then it's a really great opportunity to experiment early on and see who responds to your message, and keep testing, keep talking to people, and you'll have a lot more opportunities to do that as your audience grows. But when I started my first business, I wish I had done that. And each time I started a business, I learned more and more to have those deeper conversations, and it really pays off in the long run.
Sure. One of the easiest ways to know what your clients want is to survey them. Now, if you don't have a list with hundreds or thousands of people, it doesn't matter. Survey friends and family members and random people. And I mean people you meet on the street, in a bar, in a shop, or people in a bus, in a train. And just chit-chat with them. You'll be amazed what answers you get. Now, they might not be your ideal client base, but it still gives you something to work off from.
Yeah, you can have some really fun and exciting conversations that way.
Oh, definitely. We've launched products in the past because I talked with people that had nothing to do with what I do and vice versa, but they sparked an idea that our agency put into action. Now I would like that you share a story with us of a time in your journey when you had an aha moment. Take us back to that very moment and talk about the steps you took to turn that moment into success.
This whole concept of impact is one that it kind of evolved in my mind after that nomad year. I started thinking more and more about that experience of not feeling fulfilled in what I did, and of wanting to do something that I knew would be valuable and would be personally fulfilling. So it's really the two poles of you and your unique business and what you can offer. And then on the other end is the contribution that you want to make in the larger world. And it's really a dynamic blend between the two. You can't have one without the other. You can't keep giving without receiving anything. You can't contribute without taking care of yourself and your business. And you also can't take care of yourself and your business without contributing. So the two are intimately linked. And that was a way of thinking for me that was really evolving. I mean, I'd done all this work around purpose and mission and what sometimes happens is that can be very kind of self-focused. And while that's valuable, I think, as a starting point, I don't think it really takes into account the full scope of what a business involves. And that is the dynamic between you and your business and what you're doing with the world, and the element of what are you contributing? How are you making the world a better place is such an important aspect for me. So that definition of impact really evolved, and the current version is impact is where your unique self and business meet the world and contribute to making it better for all of us. So that concept was something I really wanted to work with more and more. And I realized as I started putting it out there that people did not know what I meant by impact. And you may find that kind of funny, because now everybody is talking about impact, which is very exciting to see, because I think it really has revealed that people are thinking more of how do I fit in terms of what I'm also offering to other people, how am I serving? But at the same time, it's important to keep that. What is it happening with your own growth, your own leadership development, your own skills, and your own personal development as well? So the aha moment really for me was around this concept of impact and how valuable and important it was for me to really incorporate those two elements. And it was really about 4 years ago when I started talking about that and started putting that word out there. And I think it really helped crystallize some things from my own childhood and my own experiences growing up, where it was really an opportunity for me to see that I matter and what I do matters, and really speaks to interconnectedness and how we're all connected and what we do affects each other. And business, I think, is an amazing venue to do that. And especially in these times, I think people are really seeing how interconnected we all are, and how what one person does can influence so many other people. It's unfortunate that it has to be this kind of example, but it really speaks to that in a way that maybe hasn't been so vivid for people before. So that kind of aha moment of kind of bringing together my own personal experiences from childhood and my business experiences into that idea of impact is really one it's enormously influenced me, and it certainly is at the heart of my business right now.
Let's dig a little bit deeper, Ursula. I find it interesting you brought up your childhood. You said the word impact and its meaning crystallized a few things while you were growing up, which led up to you seeing the impact you're having as an adult. Tell us more.
Yeah, I think that there was a lot going on for my parents as I was growing up. And I think that it was difficult for me to feel like I mattered as an individual. It was really something that arose, I think, out of partially the change in cultures that my family went through. I ended up, as a small child, we moved from Europe from Germany to North America. And it really, I think they were finding their way as well, but to really have the opportunity to feel like I mattered and what I said and did really mattered was something that I really struggled with as a kid. I didn't really feel that. So I think coming into the work that I do, it really kind of came together as I started coaching and working with people that, wow, this really does matter. And not only does it matter to me in the sense of I can see that I'm having, that I'm more fulfilled, but also it matters in my clients and their businesses, and look what they're able to do with clarity around their own impact. So that experience about 4 years ago where that all kind of came together has been a really seminal, formative one for me.
I think it's very interesting that our behavior is always connected to our childhood, but it depends if we recognize that when we were growing up, our parents, our teachers, friends, countries we lived in, all played a role and influenced us in how we developed as a teenager all the way up to becoming an adult. When you were telling your story, you took me back in time when my parents decided in the mid-70s to move from Hamburg, Germany to California. So I grew up partially in San Francisco, and the influence that had on my childhood was enormous. Unfortunately, we moved back to Germany after about 8 years, and because I was Americanized, I didn't feel comfortable in Germany anymore, which is also probably the reason why I now live in Spain since over 20 years, as it's very similar to California.
Well, it's funny how your childhood experiences, of course, they're formative and they influence, as you said, how you develop over time. And then I agree. It sounds like you've had this experience too, where the clients that I talk to, there's always some experience that has gone into choosing the business that they're doing now, especially in the coaching realm. I think that is especially something that I've seen almost in every client.
Oh yeah, that doesn't surprise me. If you would have asked me 20 years ago that I would be living in Spain and coach people with their mindset and help them get more clients for their business, I would have said no way. However, if I look back on my childhood, when I was around 15, I was reading books that talked about mindset and how the subconscious mind has a huge influence in how we move through life. You know, I'm a strong believer that everything we experience, every book we read, every job we had is never time lost, as it shapes and forms us to reach the next level in our journey. A book I highly recommend for those of you that want to dive into how the subconscious mind works, then check out the book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Dr. Henry Murphy. I'll leave a link in the show notes. Ursula, what do you think is the one common myth about being a coach that you want to debunk?
Myth about being a coach. Well, I think that sometimes because coaching is often a one-on-one kind of activity, that it feels small and it feels limited in a way in terms of what happens between you and your client. And I think the myth around that is really that the impact that you're having is small. I think that the impact that coaches have is extremely powerful. And I mean, I see that all the time where it doesn't just influence the mechanics of how you may be dealing with a difficult issue if you're working with a life coach, or if your business is doing better, if you're a business coach. We're all human beings, and we're very holistically coming into every situation and every coaching engagement as a whole being. And there may be one thing you're focusing on at any given time, but when you're able to work through things, come to a better understanding, and then do something different, which I think is the hallmark of coaching, is that you can actually take action in a different way. When you come to that, it influences not only the person's life in the moment, but it influences the rest of their lives, and it influences everyone that they come into contact with as well. I always say that there's this ripple effect where the work that you do on yourself and on your business, it ripples out into the larger world. So if you're more feeling more stable in your business, you're able to look more widely into the community and the larger world. If you're looking for opportunities for your business and you feel able to step into those, you can go global or look at a larger impact that you could have. So I think the myth is that coaching is a one-on-one thing that really has a small impact, but your impact is actually huge, and it continues to ripple out even after your engagement with the client.
Oh, absolutely. You said ripple effect, which was, I believe, coined by Sean O'Connor, who examined that coaching goes way beyond the individual who was receiving it. I also call it the domino effect, and I see what you mean with the myth of coaching on a one-on-one basis seems small, but I think that can't be further from the truth. Fact of the matter is, the impact coaching has on the individual is huge because we help people transition from one spectrum to another, right? That said, there's another myth that says consulting has a bigger impact than coaching. One thing is for sure, we need to differentiate between a coach and a consultant. Both lead the client to a different outcome. But because consultants show up in a suit or hold meetings behind glass walls, people presume they play a more important role than coaches. Again, that can't be further from the truth. Now, I'm not saying that consultants are not important. I mean, I run a consulting and coaching agency, but we need to understand when the one or other is needed. In short, a coach explores possibilities and a consultant provides possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that sort of juxtaposition of consultant and coach. I mean, I see them as quite different, and they serve different roles. And I think of coaching as a much more of a, it goes deeper. And that's not the role of consulting. Consulting is more of a systemic, how does this fit into the larger structure of the company or how things fit in? And yeah, it's an interesting comparison.
Yes, it is. Let's shift gears a bit. Do you see it as a requirement being certified as a coach, or do you think people can start their coaching business and get certified later on?
I think it depends. I know just from the client's point of view, organizations tend to want to see certification. So if that's your audience, you'll need to get certification. Individuals are less focused on that. But the other crucial aspect, obviously, is your skill set. And what have you been able to, how have you been able to develop the skills that are needed to be a coach? Because coaching requires great skill. It's quite nuanced in both in the process and in the communication. And the other aspect is that you have to be able to hold space for your client's success, even when they just can't feel it, where they feel like they're lost and this not being able to see a way out. You have to be able to hold space for that and have the confidence and stand in that for them on their behalf. And that's why it's so important to work with people that are a good fit, that work with an ideal client, and be able to really stand in that for them, as well as bringing all the many skills that coaching has. So if you can bring all of that to it, I think you can have a very effective coaching process without certification, in my view.
You know, I see it this way. No certification can give the prospect the feeling of certainty that you can lead them to their desired outcome, because for them, you just have a piece of paper, right? However, if you can make them see that you can help them make a significant change in their life, they will consider enrolling into your program. But they only will as long as you give them the certainty that you can lead them to reach their goal. We need to understand what a certification will do for the coach and not the client. A training from any organization will give you structure. It will give you a process, a framework in how to lead your clients through your program, which in return will give you certainty. One thing is for sure, no certification is going to get anybody magically new clients. Did you know 87% of coaches or consultants from around the globe go out of business in their first year? And the main reason why they go out of business is because they didn't figure out how to generate a steady stream of new clients. Therefore, my team and I have created a workshop that outlines exactly what we do to generate a consistent stream of new clients month in, month out for our business and for our clients. So if you're a coach or consultant and you're committed to changing more lives with your expertise, then I encourage you to register for the free masterclass. Just imagine to never wonder where your next clients are going to come from next month. And all you need to do to make that a reality is head over to clientsindroves.com. That's clientsindroves.com and register for the free training. Ursula, are you ready for the Thunder Round?
I'm ready.
All right. If you could step into my shoes, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't, and what would the answer be to that question?
Well, the question really would be, what happens to impact after you figure out the compelling impact that you want to have? And the answer really is, it has to be implemented. You have to take action on it for it to really have value. It's not enough to put it in front of you on a piece of paper or on your screen. You really have to implement it into every aspect of your business for it to have the best outcome and for you to have the most profit and the highest impact.
Was there anything holding you back from becoming a coach? And if so, what was it exactly?
I think there were a couple of things. One is confidence. And as I developed that more, that certainly evolved and got much better over time. But also, I used to rely a lot on my intellect. And as I shared in that story around my nomad year, I call it the year that I did all the traveling, is that it's really now a blend of smart and heart. And I love living that way. I love working that way. But I think I felt before, in terms of what was holding me back, that the intellect wasn't enough.
If you could go back in time and meet the 20-year-old you, what advice would you give yourself?
Try more things that are meaningful for you, even if it doesn't look like a direct path to anywhere you might want to be going. And when you do that, when you're trying these things, pursue them wholeheartedly.
What is the one thing most people don't know about you?
Most people don't know that I sing. I am leader of a community choir, and I love doing that. I love bringing people together to make music together. And there's something very powerful about everyone raising their voices. It's a great source of joy for me.
What is the best advice you have ever received?
That is, love your clients. And I obviously don't mean that in any inappropriate way. It really is around seeing who they are at their best self, their essential self, and really being able to extend love towards that. And by setting that kind of an environment and setting for people, it's very nurturing, and people can feel comfortable to be in a place of I don't know and try new things and manage the inevitable failures that we all experience. Loving your clients has been so powerful for me.
Now, before I ask you what your favorite book is, why don't you talk a little bit about your podcast?
Sure. My podcast is called Work Alchemy, The Impact Interviews. And in that podcast, I talk with leaders of business and organizations about the impact that they have, the challenges they've come across in that, and the joys of having impact. And we really get into deep conversation around what that means for them and their business or organization. And I've really been so fortunate in the amazing people that I've come across in the course of having guests on the podcast. It's been extraordinary to see the number of people that are out there really having impact in a very intentional way and contributing so enormously to the world in the ways that they do. So I've had the privilege of interviewing people like Seth Godin and Marianne Williamson and Prince EA, who's really a presence on the internet. But there's a lot of other people there are almost 200 interviews now. There's a lot of other people who you maybe haven't heard of and are really extraordinary leaders in having impact.
Awesome. We'll definitely check it out. What is your favorite book and why?
Yeah, it was interesting thinking about this. One of the first books I read when I decided to go into business as an entrepreneur was a book called Visionary Business. And this is 24 years ago. So the author, Mark Allen, went on to become a publisher of New World Library. He's quite influential in the publishing realm. But it was an absolutely formative book for me in thinking about business in a way that went beyond the mechanics. It really looked at having a vision, a big vision to build your business around. So it's a great book. It's still available. I recommend it.
Then let's wrap up this podcast with the last question, and then we'll say goodbye. who do you specifically work with and who should contact you if they want to work with you? Basically, who is your ideal client, Ursula?
Well, my ideal client is a woman who's a small business owner or coach who is committed to impact, to contributing to making the world better. And she wants her business to succeed, to be sustainable and thrive even right now. And she's willing to do the work that involves. So really digging deep and getting clear about her impact and then infusing it into her business.
So if you want to connect with Ursula, just head over to workalchemy.com or visit coachesspotlight.com and type Ursula in the search bar, and you'll find the show notes to this episode and all the links that lead to Ursula. In case you're wondering how to spell Ursula, that's Ursula. Now, we've invited Ursula to come back on the show in about 2 weeks or so, where she's going to hold a mini masterclass and talk about the transformative power of putting your impact purpose into action in your business. So if you're interested to learn about this topic, you definitely want to subscribe so you get a notification when that show goes live. With that said, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Ursula, it was a real pleasure having you on the show and looking forward in talking with you soon.
It was a great pleasure to be here, Oliver. I've really enjoyed our conversation, and thank you for inviting me to be on the podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Coaches Spotlight podcast. If you like the show, then please make sure to rate us, leave a review and subscribe. We appreciate your support. See you next time.